certain assets like gold, silver, commodities in aggregate are on sale. So good, you buy them now while they're on sale, but you don't expect this stuff to do anything really until the eventual meltdown in the debt market. It's going to happen, and it's going to be a shock and awe moment for the world.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for January 15th through January 22nd, 2024, while supplies last. This week, all our specials come from the Royal Canadian Mint, one of the most respected mints in the world. First, we feature backdated 1-ounce silver maples at $3.75 over spot with a minimum order of 50. Next, RCM new style 10-ounce silver bars at just $2.75 over spot with a minimum order of 4 bars. We also have backdated quarter-ounce gold maples at $59 over melt when you purchase 2 or more. And finally, backdated 1/10-ounce gold maples are just $32.50 over melt with your purchase of 4 or more coins. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're always glad to have this wildly popular returning guest. Gregory Mannarino is the founder of TradersChoice.net. He joins us this Tuesday, January 16, 2023. Greg, thanks for coming back on Liberty and Finance.
Thanks for having me. Always appreciate you. Appreciate being here.
We look to you for an unbiased and unblemished view of what's actually going on in the physical economy. You've been warning us for a long time about declines and free fall and such terms. And yet in the face of that, we're being told, oh yeah, there's robust activity from the consumer sector. And oh yeah, looks like inflation is moderate. And oh yeah, looks like jobs are stronger than expected. One of the things I wanted to ask you about today, because you just wrote about it last week, you said something to the effect of, you can't make this stuff up, downward revisions of the Bureau of Labor Statistics giving the jobs report saying, oh, we actually created something like 400,000 fewer jobs than we said were created or whatever. And one of the observations about that is how we're being consistently lied to, consistently misled. This has been a theme in your writing and speaking over the past several years and your visits here, but you document it and you say, look here, look here, look here. This is what we're being told. Just starting with that example that you wrote about last week, the jobs report coming out saying jobs were strong and robust. So many jobs have been created in the last cycle, and then lo and behold, a month later, it gets downward revised. Very quietly, the revisions are always very quiet. It reminds me of a scripture verse about things that are whispered and quiet should be shouted from the rooftops. But this is the opposite. The things that are being shouted from the rooftops are the lies, and the things that are being whispered in quiet is the revisions and revisions. So what people hear, the masses of the people, 99% of the people, if they listen to the mainstream press or the mainstream financial news, all they're going to hear about is this rosy picture. Good days are here again. And then what they're not being told is, actually, that was not true. And here's what the real truth is, whether it's about inflation, whether it's about jobs, whether it's about unemployment. You tell me, can you talk to us about that, the big picture of how we're being lied to, and maybe some specific examples that come to mind to you right now?
It's all propaganda. I don't believe anything that they say. Name something, it's all a lie. Look, we don't need to be rocket scientists or even have more than one functioning brain cell. So the truth to actually, look, they're dictating our lives to us because they want to convince us of something that is absolutely false pretty much across the board. The global economy it's just done. It's dead. It's buried. The consumer's getting systematically erased. But they keep, pushing all this nonsense at us here. It's a game. It's a very dangerous game because it's causing not only are people not understanding what's going on, they're not meant to. And again, when people hear this kind of stuff, they look upon themselves and say, hold on a minute, well, why am I struggling? Why do I have to continue to borrow? Why can't I make ends meet here? And it just keeps getting crazier and crazier. I mean, just this is an hour ago. This is, we heard from Fed President Waller. Now, this is exactly what he had to say, and it's kind of interesting in my view. So the wording here is what gets to me, and this is the article right here. So Fed President Waller this morning here, economic data for the Fed is almost as good as it gets. I mean, and just an hour prior to that, we just found out again that the New York Fed Business Activity Index is in absolute literal free fall, is contracting faster than any other time in history, more so than even during the scamdemic. Okay. So, I mean, you get one piece of information, then he's telling us how great this is. But the situation is, look at the wording. Economic data for the Fed, because that's exactly what they're doing. They're destroying the economy, and they're using, the CNBCs, the Bloombergs, to just lie and look here and don't look here. And look, the data is always, it's all made up. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, and I want people to look this up. This is about maybe 3 or 4 months ago, actually admitted the data is fake. It's all fake. It's made up. My hat goes off to the Bureau of Labor Statistics for actually admitting that, but that's a fact. So, look, people realize, at least to follow our work, they're being propagandized. They're being lied to. They're being told to look over here. Don't look over there. This huge false flag of wars and expanding wars and everything else that's going on. Only in a mechanism here to pull cash into the now. The liquidity crisis is full on right now, and it's getting a lot worse faster, as you and I have talked about repeatedly. If I don't know, go back as far as people want to go. The stuff that we have spoken about really is amazing because it's all happening. And, what are we doing, you and me? We're telling people, raise your awareness. This is what you need to be paying attention to. And I think people that follow our work, by and large, get it. But the masses have no clue. They don't understand what's going on. And it's, again, by design, of course.
You also mentioned to me before we got started today about contraction of the physical economy, and the data we have on that looking the grimmest ever. This is the exact opposite of the statement that you just read from the Fed president. Can you talk to us about what the measures are that are indicating a contraction of the business economy?
Well, this particular one was the New York Fed Business Activity Index here. And it's just little things that, you kind of got to pay attention to that nobody ever does. But, here's the thing. People don't even need to follow that kind of stuff. People know something's wrong in their hearts. People know something's wrong. I mean, you talk to people every day. They know something is wrong. They can't put a finger on it because, again, you got the propaganda telling them one thing, and they're being told who to hate, who to love, blah, 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 and everything else that's going on. And people don't know. If they're able to clear their minds and just focus on, look, what they're seeing, again, they're being told by all of the propaganda ministry, how great their lives are. They couldn't be better. The economy is strong, it's booming, it's doing this, it's doing that, but ignore everything else. And it's unfortunate. We've seen this before. It's a repetitive pattern throughout history where the people are just, towards the end, especially of whatever's going on at any time in history, that's when the propaganda starts really getting worse. And this is something I outlined at the end of the prior year, this current year, I said, look, the deceptions, the distractions, the lies, the tales are going to get even worse. The more they feel, I guess, the more that they push that agenda, the more people are going to believe it. And that's actually true, unfortunately. Studies have shown that to be true. If people are told a lie enough, they take it as gospel truth. It's just human nature, I guess. I'm not sure.
Yeah, one of the most insidious things about that principle is that we start to doubt ourselves. We start to doubt our own gut instincts and our own observations, what our own eyes are seeing, what our own ears are hearing. You had at the end of the invasion of the Operation Desert Shield or whatever, when we were invading, actually the next conflict when we were invading Iraq and invading Baghdad, you had the propaganda minister for Saddam Hussein on the roof of the palace. They called him Baghdad Bob, and he was saying to the press, "No, the Americans are not here. They're not in. Our Republican Guard is strong." And you could see in the background the American troops were coming in. So it's no, you don't see what you see, you don't hear what you hear, you don't know what you know, you don't feel what you feel. We will tell you what to think. We will tell you what to know. We will tell you what to feel. It's very 1984 Orwell-esque, this dystopic future, but it's been played. It's a playbook that's been used by tyrants throughout history. I mean, people know that in individual relationships, there's this idea of gaslighting and of manipulative or overbearing people in relationships, telling people, no, you don't feel what you feel, you don't know what you know, that sort of thing. But when it happens on a national or global scale, people can succumb to it because that is part of a weakness we have, is to not trust ourselves, depending how we were raised, etc. And a lot of the current population was raised in government schools where they were taught what to think, and they weren't taught about natural rights and freedoms and that sort of thing.
Yeah, for a reason, absolutely. Look, the brainwashing, the mind screwing starts at a very, 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 very young age. The programming is what it is, trying to get people to think a particular way, to understand the world in a way that is dictated to them, exactly the way what you just outlined here. And unfortunately, this phenomenon doesn't change. In fact, I think it's more ingrained as people age. They don't get wiser as they get older. They really don't. I think it's a pretty rare thing for people to be able to see beyond that. So people like you and me and the people that follow our work, they're special people because they're being given a gift to say, hold on a second here. Things aren't what I'm being told they are or dictated to me. I understand this in a different way. But that's their greatest fear, is people thinking other than a way that they want them to or programmed to do. And we become a threat to the system, clearly. I'm so shocked that you and I are still out here after all these years. It's amazing, bro. We've been together a long time, you and me, and the people that follow our work. But we're out here, we're telling the truth. I think we're gaining traction. More people are seeing what's happening. It's a beautiful thing to see. And I'm hoping people are going to raise their awareness, maybe get a little angry about the current situation here, break out of the indoctrination again that they've been placed into, that the indoctrination camp that they've been placed into here, and start to think more outside the box here. It's a slaughter going on. It really is.
That's the part I wanted to turn our attention to here is, so what does it matter? So if some people who have a microphone are saying things that aren't true, so who cares? Well, it matters because we're being robbed. We're being cheated. Our futures are being stolen from us, from our children, from our grandchildren. The sovereignty and freedom of our individual states and so on, even our countries, are being subjugated to global interests, which do not have any. They're not going to ask us before they impose the next mandates on all of us of whether we can travel or not, whether we can have a job or not, what we can say or not, what we can earn or not, what we can spend or not, etc. And so it's like the old con jobs, the pump and dump, where somebody says, oh, this is the best stock ever, the best stock ever, the best stock ever. Meanwhile, they're selling it. So in other words, they're using that as cover to get you to do what they want you to do so that they can do the opposite. And in this case, the very bowels of our economy, our financial edifice, everything is being carved out from the Social Security Trust Fund being raided, the national debt going off the top of the charts. You got a hockey stick. You talk about that, exponential growth, all of those things, carving out and you call about pulling the cash into the now. So in other words, our future prosperity that could have been there for us, could have been waiting for us and our children and our grandchildren, is instead being pulled in to cover the lie now so that things don't look so bad just as a Band-Aid. And then we find out, oh, we're broke. Not only are we broke, but we don't have our country anymore because, oh, by the way, the border was left open, and on and on. So all of these things are being told, not a problem, not a problem, not a problem. Why? Why does that really hurt us? Well, in my view, it hurts us because if people don't get angry, as you think they should, then they don't take action, and what they're actually doing is they're robbing the store while we're looking the other way. Any thoughts from you on what are the real consequences of this deception?
Well, what they're doing is very clear to me. They are creating dependency on the system more and more. This is why, they're playing this mind game on people. People can't survive. They burn through all their savings here, credit card debt, household debt, personal debt skyrocketing. With loan defaults across the board, we find out the economy is, in fact, in free fall here. And people, unfortunately, what they're doing here is creating slaves to their system only because they're going to switch it to a new one, their new system. They have to destroy the current system first, destroy the world economy, what they are doing right now, wipe out the consumer, make people desperate so they will beg for whatever is handed to them. They're lining the people up, and people, unfortunately, are marching their way to the slaughter because they're not paying attention to the stuff that's going on here. It becomes too overwhelming for them, and they can't sleep at night. This leads to a whole bunch of other problems: drug addiction, alcohol addiction, all of this stuff here. This is why we are the most prescription drug addicted nation on the planet Earth, because people can't cope. And that's also part of what's happening and what they're doing. And the phenomenon we're seeing now is pretty much in our face. That is, and I outlined this years ago, how as the system came down around them, and prior people who were in the middle class say, hold on a second, I can't maintain this. What would they do to try to maintain that illusion? They would go out and borrow and take out loans and melt their credit cards. And this phenomenon is playing out exactly that way, because again, they're creating a system of dependency. The more people that are dependent on their system right now, the more people they can line up to march into the slaughter, the more of those people, again, when they're ready to institute their new, in my belief, it's a tokenized system that they're setting up right now, a cross-border trans-world system, one world system in many, many ways. In fact, probably in every way. They got to make people beg for something, and that's what they're doing here. The setup is very simple. I think, again, that we're going to see extreme distortions between asset prices and what's happening in the economy moving forward here. Rate cuts, more easy money for the market, more war, a lot more war down the line here as a mechanism to pull borrowed dollars into the now. And people are going to see some crazy things this year. This year is going to be one for the record books, I'm telling you, in every way you could think about it, moving forward. But again, this is all about what they can pull. It's a psyop on an unprecedented scale, what they're doing here, and they're not done. They're not even remotely done. This is going to get a lot worse this year. They're going to dictate more of what people need to. You need to do this, you need to do that. Meanwhile, when you hear that, you should be doing the polar opposite, of course. But I think people, at least the people who follow our work, are well aware of that already. You and I have done a very good job, I believe, trying to lay out what's happening for people.
Yeah, part of that bewildering complexity of this ever greater growing sort of, I would call it like a cancerous tumor of government and layers of bureaucracy and regulations. And people have said that you can't even, one of the outcomes of that is people get hopeless because they can't understand it. They feel powerless against it.
So they surrender.
And they feel that nothing they do can make any difference, isn't going to make a difference. So what do you do if you feel like your actions, your efforts aren't going to make a difference? Well, we've seen it. We've seen it in communist Russia, Soviet Russia. We've seen it in China. People just get depressed. People and alcoholism was rampant in Soviet Russia, and people not having children and that sort of thing. One of the things that despair and the dependency on drugs and so on to medicate ourselves because people feel hopeless, but then there's also that functional dependency on government that says, well, we'll take care of it. In fact, if it's not the case that the federal government is the largest single employer in the country, and that more than 50% of American households are dependent on checks from the federal government in one way or another to make their monthly ends meet. And that kind of one-way growth, which just feeds on itself and makes people feel ever more small and inconsequential in the face of this ever larger thing. And now it just goes up from the federal scale to the global scale. So it's and it's out of the hand. There's also a lack of accountability. It's like, we're going to lock you down in your homes just because we're in accordance with guidelines that are coming down from on high. All right. So in the face of all that, you've often recommended people think for themselves, get independent information, and take action in small ways. You've talked about doing good for your neighbors. You've talked about owning real things. Can you talk to us about, I guess, from getting your head straight first and then turning that into action? What's some things that people need to do to make sure that they are not falling into that pit that's being laid out for us? This we're being herded into this slaughterhouse. How do we opt out of that?
I think people need to look for the trapdoors. The main thing they're doing right now is to create strife and hatred between everybody for whatever reason they could come up with here. We are not each other's enemies. We need to embrace each other. Again, this is how they've, this is the oldest playbook going back as far as you want to go, thousands and thousands of years. How the few have manipulated and controlled the multitude since forever. It just doesn't change. Unfortunately, it's very simple for people to fall into those kind of traps. So, they got to look for those kind of things. When you again, it goes back to the media. When you're seeing what people are going to see, unfortunately, very, very soon, and it's already starting here, is the building up of a case for more war in the Middle East, why we need to hate these people. Wait till they start flashing across the screens, and this is all propaganda, death to America, blah, blah, blah. Oh, they're going to sell people another war. That's what they're doing right now. They're looking for every kind of a scapegoat to do that right now. The Pentagon, the current controllers of it all, the Federal Reserve that funds it all, they're foaming at their mouth right now, looking for a reason to expand the global debt, to devalue the dollar, to, again, create this neo-feudal system here. People need to just be aware of what's happening to them. Raise your awareness. Start to ask yourself questions. Why? Ask why. And again, if you are unfortunate enough to be, and a lot of people are addicted to watching the mainstream media, the Foxes, the CNNs, and all that, realize that they have an agenda, and that agenda there is to get you to believe certain things that are absolutely, completely false. Turn that stuff off and start to think for yourself. Don't rely on these talking heads there to tell you how you think, how you should think, what you should believe. And I think people in their heart of hearts realize that. I mean, maybe they don't. I have, friends of mine who are incapable of doing that at all. Again, did you see what so-and-so said? And this propaganda ministry, they don't consider them propaganda ministry. That's like their religion in many ways. The news has become, and some of these figureheads are almost like preachers to them, and they're literally preaching to them, telling them what to think, what to believe, who to hate, and everything else. And all this is doing is again, that's a major trapdoor that people are falling through. And I just realize what's happening to you. It's not so hard. I've been telling people to raise your awareness, use your God-given intellect to tell you what is right and what is wrong. It's really not that hard. I think inherently human beings are good, but they can be easily manipulated. So just start paying attention to that. Realize that that's what this is all about. The entire system is about twisting your mind into believing certain things that are absolutely false. And that is why you're in the boat you're in. Most people here who are living paycheck to paycheck here, while the rich become richer and richer. And they sit back and they wonder, what's the difference between that person and myself? Only one thing. That person is thinking independently of themselves. They're not dependent on all this nonsense. So if you pay attention to the mainstream media, you're being set up to fail in a big way and become, again, a slave to the current system. That's what it's all about.
So that's the first part of the question, is how do you get your head out of the fog? How do we wake up so that we're not being lied to, and we're not being, we're going to be lied to, but how do we recognize I'm not going to be dependent on that? I'm not going to be dissuaded by that. That's good. So now we've got our heads on straight. How does that translate into action? What do you suggest people do? Very small things, easy things they can start to do this week, this month, in their own lives, that can start to take back their lives and realize I'm not completely dependent on these overlords. I can do something in my own life that's going to be actually meaningful for my life now and for my children and my grandchildren.
Well, I mean, look, I think people need to start realizing that, again, going back to what we were saying, that when start to make friends with people in your neighborhood. How's that? Say hello to people. It's not that hard. Okay. I think we need each other more than anything else right now. We're in this thing together, all of us here. Start realizing that the people that you're being told to hate are probably, some of these people can turn out to be your very best friends. We need each other here in every way. I leave everybody off, as you know, every Friday. Love each other, care about each other, be charitable. Start off with something like that. And if you want to fix the rest of your life, it's not that hard to do either. If you talk, at least from a financial standpoint, realize where the opportunities are. I did a whole video on this Sunday. This is an environment that is rich with opportunity to people that people can take advantage of. But we understand, I mean, at its most basic level, that we're going to see the global debt and debts and deficits surge higher than we've ever seen before, faster. Well, you want to take the opposite side of that trade. You want to be in real things. Commodities, my favorite asset of all time. I hate calling silver a commodity because I think it's real money, as gold too. So start, get out of their system. We don't need to participate in their system. Unfortunately, people feel like they have no choice. But there are other ways that people can, sidestep this. And I think that's the number one way, is to bet against the debt, become your own central bank, do what the central banks are telling you not to do. They don't want you to hold gold and silver. Neither do our so-called loving, caring politicians here. They don't want you in anything other than the U.S. dollar. That should tell you something here. Okay, realize where the market's going to go here. The central banks here. It's interesting. I want people to pay attention to this. Notice when these so-called attacks happen, the bombings and missile strikes anywhere in the world. Lately, it's obviously been the Middle East. They happen after the market closes. They happen on holidays. They happen on weekends, because it's all designed that way, okay? Because they don't want it to affect the markets here. But anyway, look, just realize that we're not each other's enemies. People, number one, start off with that. Start making friends with people. Start saying, and people walk through life with blinders on. How many people do I see? Not actually here. I have to say something. I moved to Florida recently, and people here are different than in the last couple of places where I lived. People are friendly to each other. They care. My neighbors are the best people. This is the best neighborhood I've ever lived in. From people caring about each other and wanting to get together, and that they fear that more than anything else. They do not want people getting together. They want to keep you separated. They don't want to have you wearing this, and they want to lock you up in your house, and you can't make friends. And again, just realize that's what they want you to do. But you go out there, you start intermingling, then you become a threat too, because people that come together. If we had enough of us, we could change this whole entire thing. But unfortunately, there are, again, the dependency on the system, the slaves to the system, them being marched into the slaughter. Yeah, from a financial standpoint, this is a joke. I mean, there's no easier, better time to be involved in this. That is, betting against the debt, become your own central bank, hoarding, if you could, if you're able to, gold, silver, especially here. Setting yourself up for what's coming, because this is not going to go on forever. This is going to flip from a risk-on environment to a risk-off. Commodities are going to the moon at one particular time when they choose. Again, central banks right here, their goal, at least for 24, is to pull more cash into the now on an unprecedented scale as the economy free falls faster. The faster the economy free falls, the higher the market's going to go for now.
Now, you just mentioned silver and gold, and you preferred silver. You've talked about that for some long time. You've often held up pieces of physical silver when we've done our interviews. We've had clients writing to us recently saying, what about the fact that silver is relatively cheap to gold more than usual? So the gold-silver ratio is higher than average by quite a bit, maybe double or more from the half-century average, and asking, is it viable? Is it a reasonable strategy for people to still consider, to, even if they want to end up eventually having gold as their primary store of wealth, starting out with silver with the anticipation that they would be an advantage, that silver would likely increase in relative price to gold over the coming years, as has happened in, I guess, all four of the previous major bull markets in precious metals. Is that a strategy that you consider, that people should consider?
Well, my take on this, right? I just look at a few basic things. I look at the Dow gold ratio, gold silver ratio. And if you just look at these basic things here, you can see why Greg Mannarino says that silver is the most undivided asset on the planet Earth. I think we're going to see multiples here. You have to figure out, where's the Dow eventually going to go? I think we're going to get a 1-to-1 parity between gold and the Dow. And then I think between gold and silver, 15-to-1. 15-to-1 is probably, and it could get even more extreme in a full-on meltdown scenario, which we're going to get. I mean, the debt market is a time bomb. It's ticking louder and louder. It's ticking faster. It's going to go off. It's going to go off when they want it to. Central banks are buying it all. They're going to buy more this year, a lot more. We're going to see rate cuts. I know that for a fact. And that's going to drive the global debt bubble beyond. And that's going to prop up the stock markets here. But that creates opportunity. If we realize, and I think the stock market's we're going to hit record high, probably not too far off here. That means that certain assets like gold, silver, commodities in aggregate are on sale. So good, you buy them now while they're on sale. But don't expect this stuff to do anything really until the eventual meltdown in the debt market. It's going to happen, and it's going to be a shock and awe moment for the world. and just be ready for it.
Greg, if people want to follow your work, the best way that they can get connected in, you do a number of different things. You do twice daily, if I'm not mistaken, brief video updates. You do a weekend video update, and you also have other places that they can follow you. Where should they get connected?
My website, traderschoice.net, or just Google me. You'll find me. I'm everywhere.
We're grateful for your presence here over the years, and it's been a long time together. This road has been getting more and more dystopic as we go, but it's good to have some sanity available to share with people and keep all of our heads on straight. Thanks again for joining us on Liberty and Finance.
Thanks for having me.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for January 15th through January 22nd, 2024, while supplies last. This week, all our specials come from the Royal Canadian Mint, one of the most respected mints in the world. First, we feature backdated 1-ounce silver maples at $3.75 over spot with a minimum order of 50. Next, RCM new style 10-ounce silver bars at just $2.75 over spot with a minimum order of 4 bars. We also have backdated 1/4-ounce gold maples at $59 over melt when you purchase 2 or more. And finally, backdated 1/10-ounce gold maples are just $32.50 over melt with your purchase of 4 or more coins. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.